Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 296 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. What a great night we have for you tonight. We're going to be covering two things. First of all, we're going to give you a very brief early look at the Breeders' Cup Classic and Breeders' Cup Distaff. We're going to show you some future odds, talk about some horses that we are interested in. We're not going to look at PPs, but we're going to take a little bit of a look at the Classic and the Distaff, and then we're going to cover a fantastic late pick 5 for Saturday at Keeneland, featuring the Grade 1 QE2 for the 3-year-old fillies on the turf. Always one of the best races of the year. Plus, we have some major announcements and news coming your way here in just a few minutes. I can't wait to tell you all about it. Thanks for joining us. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right hand of the screen. After you do that, hit the notification bell so that you know when new content will rise, and smash that thumbs up button, that like button. It'll send the YouTube algorithm to this channel. You can follow me on Twitter on my name tag at @HKravitz, and scrolling to the bottom of the screen, please feel free to email me at hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have Keeneland only power picks. They are available now on a weekend by weekend basis. There's 2 weekends left. Check below the video player. You can sign up for this weekend's races, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, our tip sheet, by tonight, Thursday, midnight. If you don't have a chance to do that, you can sign up for next weekend's power picks, the last weekend for Keeneland, next Monday through Thursday, midnight as well. We also have regular power picks. Look below the video player, again, for information on that. And you can find out more information on our great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. And finally, we are on Instagram. Check us out. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. All right, that covers it. Without further ado, let me bring on my fantastic co-host for some extremely big announcements. First, from the East Coast of Maryland, Mr. Pete Visco, and from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, it's Mr. Paul Halloran. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Excellent.
Fantastic. Let's
Terrific.
get this news going. What the hell? You can't tease like that. Let's get this moving.
All right.
I want to know what the breaking news is. Well, I don't even know. I don't know if Paul, I assume Paul knows, but I don't know
Paul
yet.
knows. Yeah, Pete, actually, I don't think you do know.
I don't know,
Well,
obviously.
Well,
That's what
before
I'm
I
saying
just want to show what I'm sporting from my trip at Lexington last week, which we're going to talk about. My UK hat. Guys, I got to say this. I've never been a big UK fan, to be honest, because, you know, UK is pretty much known for basketball, and Calipari I'm just not a big fan of. But out of respect to Lexington and our good friend Noah Maher, got to represent. Plus, I played some pretty good golf on Monday morning wearing the hat. So, but we'll get to my weekend in just a second, as I notice we're all wearing like a blue kind of theme tonight. All right. We got a lot of now, Pete. We're supposed to wait and give the breaking news to have more people on the, let more people come on.
You
and
do
give
what
them
you
the
want.
piece.
You're the host. I'm just, I get excited. I'm anxious. I want to know.
Because we have a large audience already, and because Pete doesn't even know the breaking news. Pete, this is such big breaking news. I actually have a banner for this breaking news. But you know what? Our good friend, our buddy down below, Paul Halloran, is going to make the big announcement. I put it on Twitter. We are having a very, very special guest coming on in the next few weeks before the Breeders' Cup. Paul, Mr. PR guy, take it away. What's the news?
Well, Pete, I know you thought the news was you and I had taken over the show permanently based on our.
I didn't think we were. I didn't think we were telling anybody that. That's why. That's going to be
after the Breeders' Cup.
Okay.
No.
Oh, look at that.
10/24 Tuesday night, which is, I believe, Howard's a week from next Tuesday. I believe.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
We will be joined by the man himself, not the horse, but Cody Dorman and his parents will be joining us live You can ask some questions in the chat. We're going to have some questions ahead of time for Cody because it's easier for him to, have a chance to do them on his tablet ahead of time. But exactly 1 week before Cody himself ships to the Breeders' Cup, and one day, Cody's Wish, I found out Tuesday in a conversation with Bill, Cody's Wish is scheduled to ship October 25th. So the night before Cody's Wish ships, we are going to have young Cody on. Not so young. He'll be 18 December 5th, God love him. We will have him on to talk about how he feels about making the trip to see his guy run and hopefully win one last time. So don't miss that one, 10/24, 7:30 p.m.
We are,
That's
first of all,
awesome.
we are very thankful for the Dorman family for allowing us to have this opportunity. I don't want to say this for a fact, Paul, perhaps I don't think Cody has ever done a live interview. We've seen, of course, he's been part of NBC's broadcast with taped packages and whatnot, but actually to have him on live is really quite a get. And we are so thankful that the Dorman family is willing to cooperate with us. And I know we're going to have a huge audience on October 24th, 7:30 Eastern. We will have some pre-approved questions, and we'll talk more about the interview. But Paul, just want to get this out right away. Based on the way Cody communicates, if you have a question for Cody Dorman specifically, we're not going to be able to ask Cody himself that question. But Paul, perhaps if there's questions for the family, of course, we can relay those live. Is that correct?
Or we can, we have until then. If you have a question for Cody, feel free to put them in the chat tonight and next week. And we'll be sending those questions out ahead of time. So that's another option, Howard.
Yeah,
Also,
you can put them in the chat. I'm sorry.
Or email them, whatever's easier for you.
Actually, I think the easiest thing to do, either way, or put them below the video player might be the easiest way to do that. So communicate. Sorry, Pete, to steal your thunder. I'm assuming that's
I was going to say we also have on the website. If you can't remember anything, you can always go to the contact page on the website, and you can use the contact page on there as well, and that'll shoot an email to Howard directly. So if you forget the episode that it was on and all of that, just go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com, contact us and do it through that if it's easier.
Yeah, it's gonna be about 45 minutes. It's gonna be very special. We're so happy to have Cody Dorman and his family on. We've had them on. We had the parents. We had Leslie and Kelly on before, but now we will have the man, not the myth, not the legend. He is real. We're going to have Cody Dorman on. Very exciting. October 24th. And Paul, we're going to do a little PR ourselves. We're going to send stuff out to a lot of networks and whatnot, hoping to have a very big show. So we're very happy to announce that. Let me take that banner off the screen. Really quick, let's get some comments of people that are here, and then we'll get into a few things. Our handicapping portion tonight will be a little bit shorter, only because we do have many other things we're discussing. I won't be any less thorough. It'll just be a little bit on the shorter end. Sean Kane. Guys, I met a lot of people this past weekend. So excited to meet all the viewers and listeners of the show. Sean was one of them. Sean, how you doing? Good to see you again. Great to see you at Keeneland. We got Richard Avalars here. Good evening, Uncle Howard. Shards should have won. He won the gallop out, though. Give him a shot in the Breeders' Cup, Richard. We're going to have a very short conversation about that tonight. Tom Espinosa is here, rocking the UK cap. Absolutely, Tom. Got to represent Lexington. We've got Katie Elner fan 1995. Well, I believe that's Temple Bailey, by the way. I don't know. Hope I'm not stealing your thunder there, Temple. Brad Anderson of the BC crew. Brad will be out there, Paul. We're going to be joining him. Boy, it's only, 3.5 weeks away now? Wow.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Good evening, fellas. Looking forward to some great discussion tonight. Ralph Conti is here. Here come the Italians. Gizmo, Lucavelli's here. Big get by
Pete, they're all
Paulie
coming
H.
out, Pete.
I mean, the Italians. That's our bread and butter. It's our bread and butter audience, Paul.
No doubt.
Cool Kev 75. Salute to us.
Salute.
Salute. See, what's wrong with the hat, guys? I mean, Noah approves of the hat. I mean, Noah Maher here from Betting and Boozin'. Mike Monroe is here. All right, we got a lot of people. Please make sure you comment in the chat, guys. Real quick, a few things to talk about before handicapping. The first thing, guys, was my weekend at Keeneland, just very briefly. I just want to thank everyone out there, especially Jim Goodman. This guy's a complete saint, Paul. I know if you had a chance to meet him, Paul. Jim Goodman of Keeneland, we had him on the show. Pete, of course, took care of myself, Kyle's whole family for that matter, and Noah Maher. We were all there in the green room, had a great time. I want to say something on a more serious note related to this weekend. Guys, I'm a little bit of a betting slump. I'll admit it. I'm Mr. 4 out of 5 right now. I'm just, I'm playing some reverse keys that I'm hitting second, third, but I can't find the winner. I'm a little bit of a slump right now, guys. But you know what? When you put everything in perspective, I'm not so slumpy. I had a great weekend, met a lot of fantastic people, had people come up to myself and Kyle, guys, and who we didn't know, said they loved the show. In fact, one of the best points of the entire weekend, get this, guys. So I'm walking around with Kyle and Noah, and a young man, probably in his, I'd say early 30s, mid 30s, comes up to Kyle only and starts talking to him how great the Bet and Booze and show was. I'm standing right next to him. I didn't want to, say anything. I figured eventually he'd turn to me and say, well, no, but I figured no. Doesn't even know me, didn't recognize me. He only watches the Bet and Boozin show. How about that? You know what, guys? I could not be any more proud. I thought that was so cool. Kyle and I got a good laugh for that after the conversation.
Did Kyle say, "Hey, this is my grandfather Howard. He doesn't hear so well, so you don't have to talk to him."
He did not introduce me, and I'm totally fine with that, by the way.
Good work, Kyle.
So that honestly, that was really cool. I had a chance to play golf with Kyle for the second time and Noah Maher for the first time. Guys, Noah is a serious. Someone's a serious player when they're 2 under on the back 9, and he's like, I asked Noah, what are you right now? I was like, I don't know. I think I'm around even or 1 or 2. And he says it like that without even being arrogant. It's disgusting. He shot a 72, guys. And he lipped out 3 putts. I mean, Noah is a fantastic golfer. I had a 41 on the back. I'll take it. For me, that's actually pretty good. Anyway, we had a great time. And based on world events going on right now, and I don't want to get into that, but I have a special kind of heartfelt feeling for Israel for, I think, probably obvious reasons if people pay attention to the show at all. It puts all perspective. So somehow, guys, missing pick 5s and other being a little bit slumped just doesn't seem really that goddamn important, to be very honest. So anyway, the weekend was fantastic, and hopefully I'll be breaking my particular slump either this weekend or I guess the BC Paul would be a good time for that.
That would be a good time to break out. Yes.
Sure would.
If you were watching Keeneland today, we were between me and Paul and me and Charlie, we were giving out, winners left and right. So you got to start paying more attention and riding our bets instead of whatever you're doing.
Pete, compliments to you. Did a great job hosting Keeneland today, both Saturday and Sunday. We had some nice calls on the Power Picks. For those people that are subscribing to the Keeneland Power Picks, had plenty of nice winners there. Gizmo, the bread pudding never disappoints, ever. The bread pudding was fantastic, that's for sure. All right, let's talk about Shards real quick, guys. I don't know. I'm going to stop yapping. Give me your opinion of Shards in general, guys, and then we'll talk about possible Breeders' Cup, although we don't have official news. I will go with you, Pete, first. Just remind everyone who Shards is and why we're even taking a few minutes to talk about this horse.
Yeah, so Shards is one of the horses that myself, Paul, Howard, and Kyle Roscoe have a part ownership in through Crown's Way Racing. He ran, he ran over the weekend in the Indian Summer Stakes. Am I getting the stakes name correctly?
Correct.
And yes, as you could see on the screen there, he ran a fantastic third after him and the Midst Waves both had sort of very eventful and not perfect trips, but I thought Shards ran fantastic. I thought he was the best horse in the race. And apparently, I didn't necessarily see it live, but galloped out beautifully past the top 2 horses. So looking good. And I mean, it's a pretty wide open. I mean, generally the juvenile turf sprint is a pretty wide open affair. So if it was up to me, I don't think Tony's in the chat today. No. So if he was in the chat,
slow. I don't know, broke slow. It just sort of got outrun. Adam Bishiz said he broke fine. Pete, he just got outrun.
Yeah, I didn't think it was. Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. There's some faster horse. I don't think that's his game necessarily.
No, I will say the one-turn races were a bit speed friendly. You can't tell by this, there's quite a bit of wind against them in the stretch. And Paul, as I'm watching the race, I didn't want Shards this far back, But in about 3 or 4 seconds, I started getting a little bit excited, Paul.
Yeah, it's just, it's all about real estate. You take a look at Beshiza. He started to go out. Now he's back in. And now you're going to see him hesitate right there. And now he dives for the hole. That type of trip, when you break like that in a turf sprint, you got to get extremely fortunate if you're on the inside. And he didn't. You can get, if you get that trip from the middle or even outside, you might lose some ground being outside, but you got to make one run. It's only was it a 5.5? I think, Howard, right? It's only a 5.5 furlong race.
Yeah.
I did think he ran very well. I think, in the back of my mind was our friend Noah.
Look at the gallop out, guys. I mean, he's way ahead on the gallop out. Not that far after the wire either.
Yeah, no, I think you can make a cogent argument that he was at least as good as any other horse in the race, if not the best horse. Again, you got to get, from the inside with that type of field, that many horses.
Watch the head on here, guys. Right here.
Yeah,
this is a good view of it. Watch. Outside.
Now see how he goes out to the 5 path, Howard. Now watch him have to come back.
Outside.
Now he's back out there.
Now he's got to go back. Boy, that just costs you a lot of ground there, Pete, and in this kind of race.
Well, and especially when the horse you're following also got blocked. So the horse you're following, who was amidst waves, who wound up running a really good race as well, got blocked, and sort of you saw the head turn out to the right. So when you're following a horse, you're hoping that horse is going to get a clean run, so you could just follow and then eventually either tip out or tip inside of it. And unfortunately couldn't do that either because amidst waves got hung up as well.
Yeah, he is improving, guys, and that's a good thing to say. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, to be very honest. He came out of the race well. We do know that, so that's obviously very important, guys. He has to. There's a few things have to happen. We're going to move on here, but first of all, the connections, of course, Tony Rollo and the gang, and Cronsway is 40% of the source, I believe. NBS is 60%, another ownership group. And Kelsey Dan, of course, the trainer. First, they decide they want to go. That's number one. Then number two, they have to nominate. Number three, we'd have to get in. Now it's a maximum of 12, I believe. There's a lot of reasons why he may or may not get in. I'm not going to talk about that right now. And then shipping out there. So there's still a lot of, I won't say obstacles, but things, but it is possible. It is possible that we will get that hat, Paul, that says Shards Breeders' Cup. That'd be pretty cool, right?
That would be, I would love to add it to my collection.
All right. I think we all would, Pete. Morning line, let's just have some fun. 25? Maybe less.
Oh, if he's in, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pretty long. Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to see. It's hard. Morning lines are hard until you see the field. I mean, you don't know who's coming over. You don't know. There'll be maybe somebody coming over in that one, and that's a tough one.
Yeah, it'd be a tough race. But it'd be great just to see him in there.
I mean, just get the run, and with a good kick, you could clunk up for third. I'll take that. I mean, that's a win in my book.
Well, Pete, I know how you feel about it.
I mean, we're not gonna. I don't want to put my actual opinion on public airwaves. I say that for our text.
I think we'll be a little bit careful with that.
I know that was on the phone, so only you heard that one. That was only for your ears only.
Yeah, Brad Anderson, that late kick of Shards is very impressive. Trip was not ideal, but you can see the talent. There's no question. He's got talent. I mean, there's absolutely no question about that. Richard Avalar said we should have had Pratt on him, that it would have won. I mean, the jock was too far back and in the stretch. I actually talked to Bishiz after the race, guys. I don't really think he did anything wrong. I mean, the last thing you want to do, Paul, in a 5.5 furlong turf sprint is rush a horse up through the inside and use that energy too early, and then you wanted that kick late. It's very easy to be picky. It was a big field in a 5.5 furlong turf sprint. Actually, other than the fact he was a little bit further back than I wanted, I'm not sure that was on Bishiza either. I thought I actually rode a really good race, to be honest. Really good.
Yeah, and again, Howard, your options are limited when you're going down from the rail. If you're in the middle of the pack, you stay there, you dive, try to maybe get a hole inside, go to the outside. From the rail, you either stay and wait or try to find a hole. And as we saw on the tape, when he thought he might have had a hole, it closed.
Right.
And when he finally did get one, he did have a really good burst. But the horse, as Pete said, the horse that he was following had a burst too, and he got the jump on him. So, I can't, you can't make, as you said, you can't make force a horse to get into the race. We talked a lot about the Vosburg. We back to Cody's Wish, right? Junior had no choice but to do that in the Vosburg. And there's a lot of talk, well, he wasn't as impressive as he's always been. Well, yeah, he's basically a one-run closer that Junior had to get to fourth going into the turn, or else Accretive is going to be too far gone. So you take a horse out of his comfort zone, and he's got to be. And this is a 2-year. Our guy's a 2-year-old we're talking about. So yeah, I don't think he did anything wrong. And I'm basically tough on jockeys. I don't think he did. I thought he was fine.
The one thing too, he's had 4 different jockeys in his 4 races, which ideally you'd like to see a jockey that gets to know him a little better, gets a little more comfortable with his style, what he likes to do, what he can and can't do. Remember, I sent you guys a note. We'll talk about the horse later. I think it was Stolen Base has had 10. We'll get to it. Has had 10 jockeys in his last 10 races. That just can't be ideal. I mean, obviously you want that a little bit of a relationship, especially with, like you said, Paul, a young horse who's still figuring himself out. So a jockey just picking him up each time on the fly, it's got to be pretty difficult.
No, there's no question. I don't want to speak for the connections guys, but I'll just say with a pretty good amount of confidence that if Shards ends up going to the Breeders' Cup, I'm pretty sure Bishiza will be on him. And the reason is because Kelsey Danner, Bishiza is like first call for Kelsey, and Bishiza guys also has been riding Copper Missile also. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Be very exciting. So anyway, guys, we'll see. Last thing is NBS, who is the majority owner of Shards, also has Spooky Channel in the turf, and they're planning on going out there with Spooky Channel. So Spooky Channel and Shards could be buddies there on the plane. Just something to throw out to you guys, food for thought. So anyway, it is me very exciting. Let's get on to our 2 other topics of conversation tonight. We're going to very quickly, like 5 minutes, guys, look at the Breeders' Cup Classic, some horses, and the Breeders' Cup Distaff. We're going to look at some future odds. I'm looking at one particular book. Now, listen, you guys can look at a lot of different things. These odds are not going to be necessarily overly accurate. But just real quick, guys, I want to get your impression of which horses you'd be interested in betting at the odds you see on the screen. We're not going to talk about we don't have post positions. We don't even know who's in the race right now, but which horses you see on the screen, guys, that you would be interested in betting on the win end. That's what we're going to focus on right now. So let me bring this onto the screen as we speak. Here we go. And Breeders' Cup Classic. Again, odds might be completely different, guys, based on what you see or what, ADW you're looking at, or what future book you're looking at. I'm going to scroll a little bit. Archangelo is the favorite on this particular site at 7-2. Guys, as I scroll down, I'm going to scroll a little bit up and a little bit down. This is the first time Pete and Paul are seeing this for themselves. I'll just go down to there. It goes down to there. I'm going to scroll back up again. As you see some horses there, you just take a little mental note of who you see. There we go. Pete, I'm going to have you go first. I don't want to make it smaller because it makes it hard to see. Pete, of the horses, let's go to the top bunch here. On the top 5 or 6, anyone you'd be very interested betting on the win end?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I had Ushba Tesoro in, what was that? Which one was that? Was that Dubai or Saudi? I forget which race. Dubai, right? I had that horse live on our show, actually. We were doing that race live, and I think in a year where it's pretty wide open, I think Archangelo has obviously sort of broken away from the pack a bit, but I think other than that, it's pretty wide open. I wouldn't mind taking a shot on a horse coming over who I know it looks like there could be some pace in this race. So getting a horse like that at 8-1, who's got talent, who's got the ability to travel and has shown that, then I don't mind that price at 8-1.
Paul, anyone on this first grouping that you'd be interested in?
I have a few, Howard. Yes.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I'd be at this point, if I could have Archangelo at 7-2, I would take him.
Really?
Okay. But the others, I do think, God, I hate to say this because we've said it so many times in so many races, but if a Japanese horse is going to win, this is the year. So 8-1, and I am most interested of those odds in Saudi Crown at 12-1.
Some breaking news that I was not aware of from Jeff Amster. Apparently,
Yes.
they announced Spooky Channel's been retired to old friends, and that was made 2 days ago. I'm not going to suggest that's any good thing or bad thing for Shards. Although I did not know.
He gets his own seat on the plane. He
There
gets
you
his
go.
own
He gets
row.
fly first class. So I did not know that, Jeff. Thank you very much for that information. I'm going to agree with my good friend Pete here. If Ushba Tesoro is 8-1, I would be extremely interested based on how he works. He did have a prep, guys. He won in, I think, Japan a few weeks ago in his return. Did it well. I don't know who he beat. I got to watch the replay, but I know he won by several. He's already proven himself. I would agree. But you know what, guys? I have a weird feeling that Ushba Tesoro, if he goes, could be as low as second choice. I'm not kidding. I think he could be really bet hard and be like the wise guy horse. So we'll have to see. And Pete, you're right. There is quite a bit of speed in this race, at least as of now. So for those of you that like closers, and Ushba Tesoro can certainly close them off the pace, that might be one people are going to be looking at. Let's go to like the second grouping here. You got Bright Future, 10-1, Forte, Saudi, someone mentioned in the chat at 12-1, Proxy around that. And then you have Mage, Dermasoda Gake, and some longer shots. Anyone in this longer grouping, Paul, I'll let you go first, that you'd be interested in?
Not really. I'd be interested in accepting any wages on National Treasure that anyone wants to make, or Mage for that matter. I would be interested in Zandon underneath.
That's what I was going to say, Paul. Me too.
Agree. Me also.
Me
That's my reverse key, like second or third play.
Always hits the board, no matter who the heck he's running against. So why not? And I think that last figure was pretty good that he popped. So he beat a weaker field than this will be, obviously, but he always finds a way.
You know, Pete, I was right. I'll just say it now because I was seriously thinking about it, but it's going to be off the table. I was seriously thinking about going with your boy Forte if he was going to come back and work well, because I want to bet a closer in this race.
You know, I love Forte.
I just don't know.
I don't think I could do it.
I don't know if he's going to go.
He will not be in the race. Howard.
His feet has been a problem. Yeah, so
he shouldn't be in the race. I don't think. I don't think he should go.
Clock is ticking. Pletcher wants to get 3 works in him. He hasn't worked. He's not going. I don't think he's going to be in that.
Guys, the weird thing is I'm sort of looking for a closer in this race based on the pace, but I just don't like the closers. I don't like Proxy. I'm not a big fan of Zandon. I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting, guys. And Arcangelo and a few others are already out there. Jen Antonucci, Paul, it's so smart to me to send him out there early. He's going to be out there for, I think, a good month before the Breeders' Cup. He's going to have some works. It's just, you want to talk about a trainer that is done right by her horse. Arcangelo has been masterfully campaigned this year, Paul. And if Cody doesn't win Horse of the Year, I actually hope it's Arcangelo, to be honest.
And and we'll talk a lot more. And Pete, I got some great stats, by the way, coming your way. You're gonna love it when we get to the Breeders' Cup. But I will just say this about Arcangelo: 3 of the last 7 winners have been coming off layoffs of 63 days or longer, which he fits into. And it really would be 4. Flightline was 62 days last year. So really, in effect, 4 of the last 7. Now, White Barrio also fits into that, but I believe that's too long. That's the one horse who's going to take action I am not interested in. He's going to be on closer to 90 days. The Whitney, Howard, we were there. What was it, August 5th, I believe?
Yeah.
4th, 5th. I'm not, I'm happy for Rick Dutrow that he's back. I'm happy that he got this type of horse. But I do not. I don't think that. I think that horse will be below 10-1. Howard, I know that's the line right now. I think he'll take more action, and there's a horse I'm not interested in.
Yeah,
I'm not as against him as most people are going to. I think he might go the other way. I think there's a lot of hate for White Barrio. I'm not sure if he's going to take money.
Oh, I like the horse, Pete. I didn't know.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying a lot of people I think don't trust him and don't think he's as good as that race was. So I go the other way a little bit on him. But I mean, it's so early, and who the hell knows it at this point. I mean, we're glossing over the 2 West Coast horses that won the back. Yeah. Well, we're if Arabian Night gets on the lead anytime a Baffert gets on the lead, they're tough. And Go Rocket Ride, I mean, that's going to be, they're in their home state. They're going to be tough too.
The newest member of the BC crew, Kyle Roscoe, host of Bet and Boozin', is here. What's up, everyone? The wait for the Breeders' Cup begins. Absolutely. It's going to be outstanding. Guys, let's look at the distaff very quickly. I actually have a different screen because that particular site I didn't think was quite updated enough for the distaff. Let's look at the distaff very quickly. Oh, that's not the screen I wanted. Hold on 1 second, guys. I made a mistake. What a shock there. Hold on. Let me stop sharing and share another screen. The distaff, guys, is going to be fascinating. I mean, really interesting. And of course, we got plenty of time to talk about it. Guys, I'm going to go with these odds you see on the screen. And these are relatively recent. Right now, you can just read them. This is not necessarily all the horses that are going to be in. There could be many iterations. There might be horses that are going to go in that are not in here, as Paul is very carefully looking at his notes compared to what he sees on the screen. So, Paul, quick impressions of what you see on the screen right now for the distaff.
Well, I think after what we saw last weekend, it's going to be very surprising if Nest can turn it around. The Saratoga race, there were logical reasons. The track was favoring speed. There was no pace in the race. Idiomatic walked around there. You were there, Howard. That was a very fair track at Keeneland this weekend, and yes. She just didn't run, and she just might be. And what a great horse she's been. But I think that I would not be totally shocked if she doesn't end up running, based on the way she's run the last two.
I agree.
I'm interested in Pretty Mischievous at 14-1. I've been pretty consistent with that, and I figure if I'm right, I'm going to get paid, and 14-1 is going to get paid. Although I think Pete's running to a window somewhere when he sees his girl Clairiere up there at 12-1.
I don't know about that one right now. Yeah.
Well, randomized, randomized looks great. And I mean, I don't want Idiomatic at 5-2, but on that racetrack, someone better go with her.
Wow.
But they're good. I think that's no question. Go ahead. I was going to say there's no question.
No.
That's what I think is the most interesting. So first of all, you could drop Echo Zulu's not running this race.
No.
Well, it's Secret Oath is retired. Society, I could see in the sprint. I don't know what Society would do.
Sailing Crusher is not going to run in this race.
How about this, guys? We're just eliminating horses in real time.
I mean, we're going to be down to a match race soon, but
I
think
others that are going, but Anyway.
But I think the most interesting thing is Idiomatic. Adair Manor has no other way to win but go to the lead, and she's going to be at home. And randomized, her game is speed. So this is the first time Idiomatic in this sort of run she's been on is going to really face pressure from a good horse. In theory, we always say that, and then it never materializes, but. So I think I like your Pretty Mischievous pick, Paul. I love Clairiere, and she runs the perfect race with pace up front. She has just been so disappointing in the last two that I'm hoping she hasn't hit that I'm done racing stage of her career. But if she's got one more in her, I can tell you this much, Paul, she's going to be on. I'm not losing a pick 5 if Clairiere wins the race. She's going to be on the ticket somewhere. I can tell you that much.
And I'll tell you this, Pete, if by any chance they all do go, and it's a ridiculously fast pace, I'll have wet paint on a few.
Wet paint too, yeah.
That's my stand-in of the distaff, guys. Like, I've been against this horse like almost all year with wet paint. Idiomatic speed. You think Baffert is stalking with Adair Manor? No effing way. He's going randomized speed, Society speed, and what's interesting, guys, is a lot of these horses have different trainers, so they're not like going to let one go and one stalk. I mean, last year was crazy. 2 years ago was crazy, guys. If you recall, really fast pace, and the bomb one. The name is
Marsh Lorraine, right?
Thank
Marsh
you.
Lorraine,
yeah. Like 1,000-1. Could wet paint win this thing at like 30-1, guys, 25-1? I mean, we've seen crazier things. It would not shock me. Anyway, it's gonna be a great distaff, guys. And
wait, real quick, Paul, you're completely against your girl search results in this field. She for once she might not be pressing the pace, and I mean, I know she always gets run down, but she could sit right behind that speed and get first run. And, she's strong until that last sort of 16th, but she can at least hit the board at that number.
She shows, I'll tell you, Pete, she shows up every time.
Every time.
The other horse that's up there, Howard, and you got to take another look, and it's, based on the last race, and it wasn't the toughest field, but that Jajera really ran off the screen at Churchill a few weeks ago. So you better go take another look at her. It's a good race.
Fun field,
and Pete, trust me, it's the same day as the Dirt Mile. I'll have a blue sport coat on. I'm not going to get beat by a Godolphin horse, Pete.
No, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
By the way, Paul, the order of the race are out. Paul, I don't know if you saw or heard.
Oh, are they?
I didn't know they were out, but unless someone was wrong on what I saw. But if what I saw is correct, the very first Saturday Breeders' Cup race is the Dirt Mile.
Okay. Well, it was the second one last year. So
yeah, if what I saw is correct. So
I didn't know. All I knew I knew the last three: Classic, Turf, Sprint, and Sprint.
That is correct.
Yeah,
that is correct. The other thing I want to mention before we go to our handicapping tonight, again, we're going to be a little bit shorter with our handicapping. Frankie Dettori is not retiring. The Frankie Dettori, the Italian. Pete, that's not you doing that, right, Pete?
There's this new thing. I think it was in a new version of my Mac where if I do certain gestures, because this happened, me and Paul were on the show Saturday.
Oh, do I have the balloon? Is that how I got the balloon?
That's how you got the balloons, I think. Because do you have a Mac?
Nope, no balloon. Okay.
All of a sudden,
someone in the chat tell it. Someone in the chat will know, Pete.
On Saturday, I had a thumbs up, and we had all kinds of stuff happen, and we're like, "What the hell is going on?"
How'd you get the fireworks, Pete? What'd you do?
I think it was a double thumbs up, maybe. I don't know. Now it won't do it, of course, because you're trying it. Because I'm trying to do it. Now it's not going to work.
Anyway, wait! Men right now. Do we?
Hey, Simon, I usually like Simon O'Neill, but take it down a notch in the chat there, Simon.
Okay. All right. Brad Anderson confirms that the first race is the Big Ass Fan Dirt Mile. There you go.
Good. Let's get it going.
Dettori is going to be riding for X amount of years in California. He's actually moving his family, guys, and frankly, I'm very pleased. That makes me more curious to go out to Santa Anita for like opening day, Malibu Day in the next few years for sure to see Mr. Dettori do his thing. Okay, guys. Let's see. Tom Espinoza, I'm making a gesture, but nothing is happening.
The middle finger doesn't count, Tom. I don't think that does anything. I'm not sure that does anything, but keep trying.
All right, let's get into the pick five, guys. Pick five, Saturday, Keeneland starts in. Not there. I did it again. I know why that's happening.
But that'd be nice if that was kicking off the pick five. That's a good race.
That would be quite the sequence. All right, there we go. I know what I was doing. There we go. Pick five, Saturday. Keeneland starts in race 6 with a maiden special, $100,000 the first mile and a 16th for the baby boys. I guess they're not so baby anymore. They're becoming more adolescent, guys. But the 2-year-olds, you see a nice field of 12. Moneyline favorite all the way on the outside is the number 12, Dive Bomber, Cox and Drew. Let me go ahead and take down the scrolling banner and bring up a different scrolling banner, perhaps one that has some picks on it, like that one. There we go. Paul, you're going to find something very interesting about our picks tonight. I think you'll just figure it out as we go along. Myself and Paul are going with the same thing. So therefore, we go with Pete, who's going with, is that right, Pete? A 20-1 shot. Pete is going with a 20-1 shot. I love it. Nuevo Empire for Medina and Gaffleon. Wow. I'm interested. I'm listening. Rabbit ears are up, Pete. Fire away.
Well, you got to love a horse that with a 59 buyer right out of the gate who was 57-1. How do you not jump on that immediately? So a few things. I thought this race was wide open when we get to our pick 5 tickets. I think I'm 6 deep, and I probably could have went deeper in all honesty in this race. But I don't know. I was watching a bunch of replays because I didn't know a bunch of these horses. So I'm watching the replay and just looked at this horse. Really stumbled really badly at the start. But again, in the first race, I always just like when a horse has that early trouble, but doesn't quit and sort of just keeps running, was closing really nicely into a pretty slow pace. So it wasn't getting to the top 2. They sort of pulled away. But I just thought we've seen it enough where, especially people who sort of handicap on the buyer perspective, we've seen enough where you could pop a low buyer in your debut and then you come back and you can make a huge jump in your second one. And in this one, now we're picking up Tyler G. This horse, since the last race, fired a nice 48-3 work, which I like, especially for a horse coming off the pace. I won't even expect like super fast works from this horse. I love the switch to Gaffleon. I think the added distance is going to help this horse. If you look, Classic Empire, 23% wins in dirt routes, Classic Empire. So I think the stretch out's going to help. Out of a Tappet mare. Robert Medina, he's 3 for his last 6 second-time starters in dirt routes. So a lot of times those are when you're stretching the horse out. So he's shown an affinity for that. And in a race that I think is pretty wide open, and I think there is some speed, I'm going to take a shot and see if Tyler can get this one home.
I have no poo-poo. I don't poo-poo 21s. So
you could put, it's not hard to poo-poo a horse that was 57, but 57-1. But I'm like, again, I'm going pretty deep. So it's not like I'm singling the horse.
You make a lot of cogent. There's a nice word, Paul.
Thank
cogent,
you. Very nice.
Cogent points there. We'll see how Nuevo Empire runs for Pete. Paul, you and I are going, I won't say more logical, but more chalky with Dornoch, who, boy, this horse broke my heart last time because I played in the Monmouth contest and really needed him, and he just could not hang on against Noted. But he was very wide that day. And what I personally like about this horse is the post. I think the post matters quite a bit. Going this mile in the 16th, it's a short run to the first turn. It's it's the first wire finish, and I think the 12 is the horse to beat, guys. I think we'd all agree with that. But to me, the post matters quite a bit, Paul.
Yeah, Gargan is so high on this horse. He was talking about him being, like maybe his best horse ever, and he's, before he ever ran. He ran okay at Saratoga. He ran it, first time out. It was in the slop, which is never ideal for a first timer. They bet him. He ran okay. As you said, Howard, he just couldn't finish the job last time. That was a mile. So he's stretching out a little more here, but it isn't, as you pointed out, that first wire finish, there's a lot of emphasis on the position you have coming out of the turn because, it's right there. So, actually 7-2 is what appealed to me. I don't know if we're going to get that, but based on the way he was bet the first 2 times, if you can get 7-2, I think that's a good bargain.
I think so. And real quick, Pete, about Dive Bomber, who has the figs, lost a general partner, who I know the B&B guys like to finish second, I believe, in the Champagne this past weekend, general partner.
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah, yep. And ran a good race, I thought.
If he can avoid being wide based on the breeding and what he's done, he's going to be, forget the 5-2. This horse, I think, will be 8-5 in this race.
I could see that, and that debut was even pretty salty if you look at who else was in it. So yeah, I mean, I think super logical. The Omaha Beaches have been pretty hot. It's Cox Giroux, so there's nothing the buyers sort of stand out. So people are going to bet the buyers. But my reason for going against a favorite is, hey, you're throwing the favorite out in the 12 hole. Even though he has been outside in both of his races, but not this far out. But again, if you're going to try and beat a horse that looks like is better than the field, the post is maybe a knock. By the way, Richard mentioned in the chat that Dornoch is a half brother to Mage, just for sake of information. But are you going to talk about? Oh, go ahead, Howard.
Based on Paul's apparent hate for Mage, I don't know if that's a good thing.
I don't hate Mage. I just don't like him in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Okay.
I didn't like him in the Travers, and that worked out just fine.
You and me both. Sorry, Pete, go ahead.
I was going to say, I like your 7. I know we're probably moving on, but I like the 7 you had in third.
Yeah.
Is a fun horse. I actually sent that horse to my cousin Nick, and I said, look, I'm handicapping Saturday. Here's a horse you're going to like. Just, flag it, because I could tell when he looks at a horse who he's going to like. And I think that one is sneaky and could be a price just because of the running line. The running line doesn't look so good.
In case Play Aloud wins and people say, Howard, you never talked about this horse. This is my third choice. There's a lot of things I like. We're going to move along. Sort of like your 11, Pete. There's a few angles. I like the blinkers on. I like Stidham's second time out. I especially like the turf to dirt angle here. This horse is bred for dirt. He's really not
That's
bred
what I
for
thought.
turf.
Yep.
And my feeling, guys, is that the reason why Amos put him on the turf is because he just wanted 2 turns. And he's just finding a 2-turn spot to get him started. So Play It Loud is sort of my underneath sort of wacko kind of horse, similar to your 11 for some various reasons.
By the way, that
Would
time
agree.
form was an 85. So if that horse,
Yep.
if you use the time form instead, it's more of like a 65, which puts that horse a little more in the mix from a buyer standpoint. And if he can improve on the dirt, which we think he might be better on, then you're starting to move up into contention. So I just wanted to point that one out because I saw you had it, and I kind of like that horse too.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. Hey, Paul, look at the next race. We both have the same choice. Paul and I are both.
Hey, Howard,
going.
I apparently think you are going to come out of your slump this weekend. Either that or
You better hope he's not mushing you. He's not the mush to you, Paul. That could be the problem.
No. Howard would
Let's
never
hope
do
not.
that.
You know that I do want to pat myself on the back for one thing because I've thrown myself under the bus several times tonight. I've been very good at fading chalks, which is not, I wouldn't say that's equally as important as picking winners, but that is important. I'm like your Annapolis's and the Kentucky Downs. I could go on and on. But when you can fade certain chalks in certain spots, I think that's really, like, I didn't like Nest at all this past weekend. Idiomatic was the, soft second choice at even money. So it's not like I picked a long shot, but to all you handicappers out there, if you can find spots to fade chalks, like the Euro and the turf sprint, that was my biggest fade of the weekend, who actually ran okay, but he finished 4th. That's really important. But was it 20?
You gotta be careful. Be careful of that horse at Santa Anita.
No, that's okay. No, thanks. But
that horse is
5
fast.
furlongs.
That horse is fast.
There's gonna be faster horses in that race than we saw at Keeneland.
Faster than 20.
Faster than 20.
Well, there was a lot of guys. There's a big, like I said, there's a big tailwind with them on the first turn. Go look at all the first quarter times; they were crazy. I don't want to get into.
Paul's going to be in the backstretch. Going to be blowing behind the horse.
Sub-21 in that race. You don't think they're going to go sub-21 at Santa Anita going 5 in $1 million race?
Well, I mean, we know he can go sub-21, and he's got a half a furlong less, and it's his second race over here. I'm just saying, be careful.
Fade.
I'm trying to tell you for your own good, Uncle.
All right, fade for me. Let's move on. There we go, guys. Race 7, $20,000 allowance race on the turf, 1.5 miles. Field of 12 with a bunch of also eligibles. I think the weather, they got their light rain Saturday morning. I think they're going to be fine during the day Saturday. Big morning line favorite, guys. 9-11 Turbo, Drysdale and Pratt coming from the West Coast, 6-5. But Paul, we're saying no. No West Coast turf horses can come east and win. We are going to go with the number 6, Foreign Relations, 9-2. Connor Murphy and Tyler G. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I like that. I like that Louisville Grade 3 stakes that this horse won at Churchill. I thought he ran well. Hasn't won since, but a Grade 1 and a Grade 2, and now this is back to a much more realistic spot. I like Connor Murphy as a trainer. I obviously like Tyler. This horse was out of it. 2 of the last 3 races, this horse was mid to back of the pack, whereas the races he won 2 in a row, he was much more forward. And I would think at 1.5 miles, he's going to have the opportunity to be more forward. I think there's an opportunity for a trip here. Interesting to note how this horse is entered tomorrow as well. So there's a chance we don't see him on Saturday. But 9-2, 4-1, 5-1, I think is a fair number, and I'd be using them at that price.
Paul, this is such an automatic. Tom Espinoza has Foreign Relations on top. So I mean, come on, that's a lot of weight.
Amen.
Relations.
I said amen, Tom.
You want to talk about a yin yang horse, Paul, and I do believe in this. In and outers, this horse seems to run great, run poorly, run great. It's his time to run well. That might be stinking thinking. That might be a bit amateurish. I don't think so necessarily. I like Foreign Relations. He's faced good horses. I see no reason why he can't win this. I'm very interested in him. The one who you
Can
have
I mention
beaten.
one thing on the 6 real quick?
Of course you can.
Yes.
The only thing, and I don't know, you said there was a little bit of rain. The 2 wins were on good turf, so that was my. I mean, I have this horse as I went too deep in this race, and I have the 6, so I'm with you guys. But my little concern was maybe he likes a little bit of cut, and I didn't know if it was going to be completely firm or not. So I guess we'll have to see. But the 2 wins were on good turf.
Fair point. Why don't you talk about the big favorite who you're taking on top here, 911 Turbo. Certainly has numbers that fit, but I'm always dubious these West Coast turfers coming east, Pete.
Yeah, it's always tough, but I mean, this horse is just in such good form, and if you look, even from just a buyer standpoint, has improved, or 2 and 3 back, sort of paired up lifetime buyer tops, and then move forward in the last one, losing to a horse I love, Gold Phoenix, who is a Breeders' Cup level, maybe not top notch, but is a higher level horse than this horse is facing in this race. So on nothing else but sort of form and figures, you figure this is a hard one. That was a terrible sentence. This is a hard one to leave off. Picks up Pratt. And actually, Drysdale, domestic shippers to non-California circuits on the turf, he's 24%, 44% in the money. So he's had some success, heading out away from the West Coast on the turf. So again, he's just a hard one to leave off. So a horse that's just running that well right now and should work out a pretty good trip from the 1 hole, I imagine.
Yeah, I have nothing against this horse. I'm just trying to find someone else, as is Paul. Many other horses in this race, guys. We're going to go ahead and move along to race 8 as I go ahead and switch some banners here. And let's see. Howard and Paul are not the same this time. That's okay, Paul. You'll find a winner in the next race. Let's go to the race 8 allowance. This is 6.5 furlongs for fillies, older ones on the dirt. Big field of 11, more line favorite, the number 10, Exceed. Feel like a horse we've talked about before on the show. Chad and Irad. Paul is going with Zeitlos for Asperson and Christian Torres. Paul?
Yeah, you'll see when we get to the pick 5, Howard. I'm going to hope that one of the 3 outside horses can get me by this leg. I think this is a tough race. Mm-hmm. And the morning line, I think Nick Tamero would agree with us, right? The morning line favorite is 7-2, Exceed. Who's got great back numbers. I mean, obviously, Chad thought enough of this horse off the maiden ring to run in the 8 bells. I saw the 8 bells. That was a hell of a race. Red Carpet Ready and Money's Gold, both really fast fillies. Mm-hmm. Took another huge swing in the Acorn. And even in that Wilton at Saratoga, had to deal with randomized and Just Catherine. So class-wise, and then, of course, the turf last time. So that horse is formidable, but I thought Zeitlos has never run a bad race. Short of the debut when Manny Franco was dumped at Churchill Downs, which is unfortunate. But you'll see the horses that she's run with have come back to win the second race, the third race. I think, low 80s fits just fine if she can come up off that. And, like I say, I used all 3 of them, but price-wise, I thought 5-1 is a decent number on this horse. And she is by a horse called Curlin.
I was just going to say you buried the lead, Paul. I was waiting for that. I didn't know if you were going to mention it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Pete is poo-pooing your top choice, Paul.
I am not poo-pooing.
You're poo-pooing. She's on the top 3. That's a poo-poo.
Oh, that is. Well, this is another race where I am 6 deep when we get to our ticket, and the 9 is one of them. I was all over the board.
Where's the graphic when I say poo-poo? There should be. Forget it. We don't want too much visual there.
You have to literally do a poo-poo on the screen, and maybe we'll see what happens. So let's not do that. We don't want to lose our audience.
Yikes.
Yes, exactly. No one needs to see that.
Pete, you're going with a horse that actually Paul and I do not have at all, which I love that. I love the creativity. Pumpkin Scone. I looked at this horse carefully. I mean, what's wrong with this horse, and why don't Paul and Howard have this horse on their ticket?
I'm going to guess it's because there is a ton of speed in this race. So I think the speed, my biggest concern with this horse, and the reason why I went so deep on the pick 5 ticket is there's a lot of speed to the outside, and this horse has shown. Now, in the debut, was able to sit off a bit and then still lost, but still was able to at least sit off, pass horses, and then got beat. But again, it's tough because it looks like it could be hot up front. So that was my biggest concern. But this horse, like you said, done nothing wrong. $1.2 million purchase for Cox, a spendthrift. In the last race, blew out Stagflation, who came back to run, not in a great race, but actually came back and ran a second the other day. And we had that horse on the show. That's the other reason why I remembered. But this is just one that I think Cox can maybe keep improving with. And you're popping out of a race where hit the 80 buyer, 98 on the time form. So that's relatively consistent, improves each race. Brad Cox, 34% maiden winners last out in allowance dirt sprints at this level. So, wow. Yeah. And actually, at Keeneland, under the same conditions at Keeneland, 7 for 11 wins, 8 for 11 in the money. So it's just something that he's comfortable, I guess, doing. And I think this horse is one of many who has a pretty big shot, and 9-2 is a relatively decent price.
Pete, I don't buy scones very often, but they must be damn expensive because this horse costs 1.2 million.
That's crazy, right?
Either scones are more expensive than they used to, or maybe for some reason there's a shortage of pumpkins for, I don't know why. It could be because maybe Halloween. I don't know, but
I don't know.
Wow,
1.2 is a lot. They
thought
of money.
A lot of this horse, guys. China Horse Club, by the way. I guess my negative, Pete's, you hit on, Pete. There's a lot of speed in this race. And Ellis was just so gosh darn speed favoring this meet that I'm just a little bit dubious. I do have Pumpkin Scone as a lone B, as in boy. Of course, people will get more information if they buy or are subscribed to our Keeneland Power Picks, and they'll get all of our ABC grids and a lot more. I'm going with the 10, as is our good friend Tom Espinoza. You already talked about Exceed, Paul. I don't know what happened in the Wilton 2 back, but and I don't think this horse is really a turf horse. So she's been working very well. I love the outside post. This is a stock and pounds. You know how much I love turnbacks. There's just a lot of things to like with Exceed, in my opinion, Paul and Pete. I would not take a very short price. The weird thing on this race is actually one of the horses I want to mention, guys. Here's my reverse key play of the day. The number 5, Dear Lady. You want a closer? This is a closer who is actually ran some nice races against tough competition at Oaklawn. And guys, don't forget, Oaklawn's very good in like January, February, March. It's a very good circuit. She was off for a while. She's going turf to dirt. She's looks like a fuzzy because of the last race. Working extremely well for McPeak. Brian Hernandez is going to stay on the rail, guys, and save ground in a race with a lot of speed and a lot of question marks. I really think number 5, Dear Lady, is absolutely fascinating. Maybe not on the win end, but at least underneath for sure. Quick thoughts, guys, on the race maybe falling apart. And maybe Pumpkin Scone could be one of the reasons why, possibly. So
yeah, I had that horse as sort of like a C, where I think I like an underneath. That was the same note that I had, sort of underneath. I know we're going to move on, but the two interesting ones real quick were the 6 and the 11, just because they haven't run in so long, and they're talented, and they're coming out of good barns and have good connections. I mean, this one's a My Racehorse. So this one, that 6 can take some money, just because My Racehorse sometimes just take money. And the 11 out of Wesley Ward. I mean, these were horses that you just don't know from 2 to 3. No. And what if they come back? I mean, this horse was good last year, the 11, and you don't know how much they're going to improve. So I had the 11 on Paul. Me and Paul have the 11 in third, but I think they're interesting at a price just because you just don't know what they're going to look like this year.
And Wesley Ward had a great weekend last weekend, guys. He won with horses that I, frankly, turf to dirt. It's all at any kind of situation. So Wesley Ward, very dangerous, of course, at Keeneland at any point. Let's go to race 9, guys. This is the big one. Race 9 is the QE2. Paul, this race seems to get, I don't know about forgotten, but it's always, a few weeks before the Breeders' Cup, and people aren't necessarily, pointing to this race in their handicapping mind. But every year, the QE2, to me, does not disappoint. And this year, Paul, might be one of the best renditions of the QE2 we have seen. And you better have your foreign handicapping on. I should have gotten Davey Lane on early, because there are some potential very nice Euros coming in for the QE2 as I go ahead and show our picks on the butt. Paul Halloran, you devil you. I thought I was getting a little bit cheeky with a different Euro, but no.
Same top three.
Paul Halloran's got the same idea as I have. Let's go ahead to
Howard, you want to
race
get in
itself.
Howard? You want to get in the contest together Saturday? We got all the same horses.
I think you're kidding, but now we got to talk off air. Are you playing the contest Saturday?
I'm going to make a late decision.
Oh boy.
That works well for you, Paul. We like the late decisions are the smart ones.
I'm intrigued.
Howard, I tell you what though, this is a race. This is a grade 1 race, at least on paper, boy. Wow.
Yes, sir. Field of 12 with Frady's the Red, who won big with a nice buyer at Kentucky Downs, is on the AE list. Field of 12 in the main body. Moorline favorite, Mauj. Irish bred, Saeed Ben Sarur, Oshin Murphy coming in to ride this very talented 3-year-old filly. We got a lot to unpack here, guys. See our picks on the screen. Myself and Paul are going with Sounds of Heaven for Harrington and Sean Foley coming in to ride. Pete is going to go with a horse that was very impressive that, Paul, you and I saw in person. Actually, Pete, you were there that weekend too, I believe, or was that the first weekend? I can't recall.
No, that was that one.
You were there. Okay. For Arnold Delacour and Flavian Pratt, you're going with the number 2, Elusive Princess. French bred, first time in the States, last time ran huge. Pete, we're going to have you go first. Talk about Elusive Princess for these very good connections.
Yeah, it's just she's just high quality, and you saw in her debut. I guess the concern was it was over soft ground, and she had run well over soft ground in France as well. So, is that what sort of made her look so good in her race at Saratoga? That is always a concern, but I thought she was super impressive. She did get a pretty hot pace to close into, so I don't think that's going to happen here. This race actually looks like it's pretty void of pace to me. So my concern would be that she doesn't have that to run into, but she's super impressive.
What a perfect ride, Pete. I was there live. You couldn't have got a more perfect ride. Great trip, great ride.
Pratt does that once in a while, right? He knows how to get him home on the turf.
It was pretty wet. This was pretty soft this day, but she did do it well. Now has experience in the United States. There's really nothing negative to say about this horse. This is a step up in class based on the field, though, Pete. I will say that.
It is for sure. And I think, at least though overseas, she was running again in some pretty, she was at least running in a couple group ones. The last one was against Blue Rose Sen, who we most likely will see in the Breeders' Cup as well. So I think she's at least shown her class there. Yeah. When she came over here, it was a good field. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't. It wasn't super. It wasn't like this. Obviously, it wasn't grade 1. It was a grade 3 field. But I think she's talented enough. But this is such a tough race. You guys are right.
We have, we got to get Simon O'Neill's. Well, first of all, Matt Miller said, in this race. I think he's referring.
No, I think that. No, that was right after you guys were talking about the contest. Yeah.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Let's go to Simon O'Neill, guys, because he knows these Euros. So he likes the Elusive Princess over Sounds of Heaven. So Simon, who is from the UK, I believe, and has obviously knows these horses well, is going 2-7. He's actually not using Mauj, or at least in the top 2. Let's see here. Michael Austin said the 5 is going to scratch and the 13 is going to draw in, according to Michael. So he must know something. He's saying Be Your Best will be out, which will bring Frady. Is that this race? Or yeah, he's saying Frady's going to be in. And this is a nice story too, Paul. Jessica Harrington, would be nice to see her win after she was diagnosed with cancer last year. Jessica Harrington trains the horse that we like. Let's talk about her. The number 7, Sounds of Heaven, who there is a horse that's similar, guys, in the form. We see this Tahira right here. Tahira got beat barely by Mauj, and Sounds of Heaven just lost to Tahira. So I would say they're somewhat comparable, although that was a few months ago. Paul, what do you like about Sounds of Heaven here? By the way, Craig Burnick ownership. This is Glen Hill Farm ownership here. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, she doesn't ship over here a lot, number one. Obviously, you can't get much better breeding by Kingman out of a Galileo mare. A length within a length of Tahira, as you brought out, Howard. And what I like is, she's a straight miler over there. But as we know, when the Euros come over here, as a rule, they can easily get another furlong without too much difficulty. So I think the mile and an eighth is fine. I think
Well, can I
Elusive
interrupt you a second?
Princess.
I'm showing the family tree because I think this is
Sure.
something very important I want to talk about in this race. On the dam side, you got Galileo, obviously, was unbelievable, can run all day. And on the male side, Kingman's mother, dam, was Zenda, who also went long. So even though, like you said, she hasn't gone long, based on the breeding I see here, I don't think distance will be a problem. And I think it might be for the morning line favorite, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I was going to go back to Elusive Princess, and Jeff Amster, who's more astute than any of us, put it in the chat before I could say it. That was the last race that day at Saratoga. The Hall of Fame was next, and Naira wanted to cancel the Hall of Fame because if they had not taken off the turf, and the gaming commission would not let them, so they canceled the entire rest of the card. So that for us to have a soft designation for a turf course, I mean, it was a quagmire. But this we saw what our boy Mr. Pratt did. He just got this horse about 9 wide away from. So I mean, this horse was bought at some point. I remember talking to Jamie Roth from L&J after that race. That was the plan all along, was for the horse to stay over here with Arnaud Delacour, and which the horse has stayed here and training at Fair Hill. I think that's a positive, but I just I think that last race might be a little dressed up based on the field and the turf condition, which she obviously relished. We should probably talk about the 4 a little, though, since
I'm sorry,
she's
you were just you were just talking about Elusive Princess. I'm sorry, I had it on the 7.
Well, that's our host error. That's all.
Pete, is there a chance? So I think the turf is going to play a big part here, and we're all dancing around it or talking about it directly. Pete, I'm sure Elusive Princess can run fine when it's firmer, but if they don't get a lot of rain Saturday morning in Keeneland and it's firmer, this horse's best races, at least on paper, or most of the races, were on softer ground. We really don't know how good Elusive Princess is going to be on firmer ground. And the number 7, Sounds of Heaven, at least it looks to me, is better if it's firmer. So I think you upgrade the 7 if it's more firm. And Pete, I'm not going to suggest you downgrade the 2 if it's firm, but that is a bit more of a question mark. I think that'd be fair to say.
No, 100%. And I think you maybe move the 7 if you're looking at the 2 and you have the 7 and sort of behind you, maybe to move the 7 even if you really don't want to toss the 2 again, because you just don't know. I mean, any horse can take to it if we haven't seen it yet. So
the other thing, guys, the Kingmans, the sire of the 7, they want it firm. The Kingmans are very good on firm turf. And so I think the more firm, the better for Sounds of Heaven. We've talked about this many times, that not necessarily, but often Euros are coming over here for firmer turf. See the Breeders' Cup 2023 in the dictionary, because unless something very bizarre happens with Mother Nature, it's going to be firm in a few weeks at San Diego. Let's talk about Mowage, guys. This is the morning line favorite. Deservedly so. 1,000 guineas at Newmarket, beating Tahira, who's very talented and might come over here for the Breeders' Cup, I believe. I have not heard. But again, there's 2 things that I don't love about this horse, and none of us have this horse on top. Pete, you've got second. Paul, you and I are third. 2 quick things I'll mention, and I'll let you guys talk for a while here. Number 1, Exceed and Excel. The sire of Mauge was a sprinter. Modern Ideals, who, by the way, is a half to Modern Games, just for the record, is really more of a miler. I'm assuming this horse can get the 9 panels, but you know what, guys? We don't know. And to me, this horse is more of a question mark with the breeding than the 2 or the 7. Not only that, best races or very good races, again, have been on softer ground, and it's going to be firm, although she has run well on firm. So, guys, for me, Mauge is more of a play against based on the distance than the surface. Peter, Paul, go ahead and take it away on Mauge, who obviously is a major threat in this race.
I had the same note. I have the horse in my top 2 and on my ticket later, but the extra distance does scare me. It does look like a miler. Had a better trip if you watch the last race against Tahira. I thought had a cleaner much cleaner trip than Tahira did. So that helped. I mean, but for me, she's really talented. And if she can get the distance, then I think she could be some trouble. And I love Oseen Murphy. He's one of my probably 3 or 4 favorite jockeys in the world. So when he comes over, he usually runs well. But I agree with you. I think if you want to fade a favorite, I think there's good reason here if you think this horse, because the breeding just doesn't seem like it. Modern Game, someone mentioned in the chat, and you mentioned it. I think Mile could be where she's at her best.
Yeah, Vashon Welsh brings up exactly what I was saying.
Yep.
But again, guys, they do know. I think Saeed Ben Saur knows this race is a mile and eighth. It's not like, oh wait, this horse might not be able to get the distance. Like, I have a hard time believing your Godolphin friends, Paul, are going to bring over a horse that can't get the distance. I mean, they can all go a mile and eighth. The question is, that's where is she going to be best at 9 furlongs? That's the question.
Yeah, and you know what? She's only 3. So to stretch her out at the end of her 3-year-old year, toward the end of her 3-year-old year is a very reasonable idea. And you know the old saying, Howard, you don't know if they can do it until you try. So
You don't.
But
a
again,
lot of positives from Simon O'Neill, by the way, about Jessica Harrington on the 7.
Good.
Go ahead.
Let's go, Jessica.
Yep. Simon also said Mouge is being pointed to the filly mare and not the mile. So,
well, if they're doing that, then it makes sense to test the distance, right?
Well, if she wants to win, is it mile 3/16 or mile 3/8 this year? I'm ashamed I don't know. The filly mare turf.
I actually don't know either.
It's 3/8.
I think it's 3. I don't think they run 3/16 at Santa Anita. I think it is 3/8. Well, if they're bringing her over for that, then distance must not be a concern. And if she wants to win,
it's a mile and a quarter at Santa Anita.
Oh wow,
that would be 2/8. The math teacher.
That will be the mile and a quarter start is right at the sort of bottom of the hill. So it's that sort of sharp.
They come down the hill, right? They come
they're already down
the hill a little bit.
A little bit. That's sort of like the bottom of the hill, and they make that left turn. The mile and a half is when they start further up the hill, and they make a little right and then a little left. Well, if Mouge is going to win the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf, she needs to win this race. I mean, if I would even consider her in a few weeks, and by the way, I'm not concerned with the turnaround because these Euros can do that. We'll see. It's a mile and a quarter. Very interesting. Any other final thoughts, guys? We'll go to the last race.
Just there's a few horses that are going to be big prices. That you got a Graham Motion at 20-1 with Johnny V. You got a Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleone, who's only 6-1, but coming off a good win at Kentucky Downs. So this is a tough race. The
8 needs to class up, but the 8 can be potentially a monster closer. If you watch the past races, that could be a fun one underneath, especially if she gets overlooked and she floats up from that 10-1. But she really needs to class up, and her figures aren't great, but she's a monster closer.
My girl from the spring, Papilio's in here, and Freddie's the red ran very well. If she gets in, guys, I mean the 92 puts her squarely in the mix. But again, these Kentucky Down winners, I'm just always a bit dubious. Sorry.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like one of those turf races. Howard, give me the Euros and I'll take my chances. The question to get the right one, but I'm most interested in foreigners in this race.
By the way, Paul, do we have a pronunciation for this track since you're the wordsmith here of the group?
Which track is this?
The one I'm highlighting.
Le Tabou?
Is that what it is?
Le Tabou.
All right, we'll go with it.
Sounds right.
Sure.
Sounds French enough.
Davy Lane, line 1. Maybe Simon can give a phonetic pronunciation of Le Tabou. All right, let's move on, guys, to the last race before things get even more crazier than they already are. Banners. Last race. Wow, look who's back, guys, in the last race. Hello. The 2023 Preakness. Oh, whoops. Well, he would have won the Preakness if he had run. This boy, I was very excited about this horse. First submission is back. In allowance optional claiming 80,000 to close out the card. Wow, what a way to close out the card Saturday at Keeneland. They're going a mile and a 16th. Like I said, allowance. Nice field of 12. Also eligible, also with airtime. Moreline favorite, as I just said, first mission from the rail is back Cox, Saez, we're not messing around, guys. I mean, if this horse is ready, I think he has got a huge shot to obviously not only win this race, but going forward could be a serious factor in the handicap division. Paul, talk about First Mission, the number 1 for Godolphin again.
Well, I guess we start on April 15th when you and I were there, and that was a very, very good effort. I don't know if you want to show the stretch.
Yeah,
Howard,
let's relive it. Why not?
I mean, for a horse making his 3rd career start, I believe it's the.
To be on the
what
rail,
number
he's going
is
to come
she?
up the inside, I believe, right? In the Godolphin, or is he the 5?
He's the 5. He's
Sorry,
the 5.
Yep.
But yeah, this is the move, right? Yes, and it comes up the inside, and this is Arabian Lion, by the way, who's Irad's going to be Irad there. Irad being Irad alert. Irad being Irad alert. And that's a very gutsy performance to overcome that. And like you, Howard, I was all set to bet this horse in the Preakness.
Yeah.
And I understand it's a 6-month layoff, and the Preakness was, historically weak relative to other Preaknesses. But having said all that, if I'm going to bet the horse in the Preakness, I'll be very honest with you, Howard, when I got to this race, and handicapping the card, this is when I first toyed with the idea of the contest because this horse was in the last race. So,
well, Paul, what odds do you think this horse is going to be post time?
3 to 5.
I can give you a reason why he might be 1 to 5. You want to know? Look at the bottom of the screen right now. Matt Miller, time to bring out the sledgehammer. Boys, that win pool might take a small dip down. It won't be because of a CAW. Matt Miller alert. Listen, if he's ready.
I think I know. I think I know how this story is going to go over the next 36 hours.
If he's ready, he's going to be tough. But, Pete, you know what? Let's not get short shrift to a bunch of others. First of all, there is some other speed in this race, and there's some pretty salty allowance horses in there. I mean, obviously, if he runs a high 90s, low 100 off the layoff, he's going to be extremely tough. But there are others to consider. Let's talk about the 8. This is a horse that you have in second that Pete and I don't have. Sakil, no, not Shaquille, Sakil, who has tactical speed, has a good bottom to him because he's been going 1.125 miles, mile 3/16 at Saratoga. I'm guessing you're going 1-2 around the track, 1-8, Pete. Would I be accurate in thinking that?
Yeah, pretty much. This is a weird one. Again, it's hard to determine who's gonna. Do you have horses who try and actually beat First Mission and sort of run themselves down, and then you get some other horses who come up and you wind up getting them in second? But I think this horse, again, you just go back to sort of a form play where since the layoff took a little bit of break after that April run, which was really disappointing for whatever reason, came back in June, a nice second, a third in the slop. And the buyers, from a buyer standpoint, just keeps improving. The time form are pretty good. Again, there's nothing to love except two back, loses to Film Star, and Film Star came back and ran second in the Woodward. So ran behind a horse that's been pretty impressive ever since. Lifetime buyer tops in the last couple. I just think this horse likes the distance. You see the 11 out of 15 in the money at the distance. Again, you're just sort of shooting for second here, and I think this one can work out enough of a trip where they just run around the track and nobody catches them.
Paul, do you want to take on this column from Main Focus? Main Focus, thanks again, as always, for joining the show. Always has astute comments. How do you take a 3-year-old facing older for the first time at odds on? Paul?
Well, I'll tell you how. First of all, he's a 3-year-old. He's a 3-year-old in November, which means he's at, even though he's only run 3 times. Secondly,
October, just for the clarification. But anyway, go
October,
ahead.
that's right. Even better. Secondly, if you use speed figures, he has run faster than every one of these older horses except the 2.
In fact, he ran faster in his first race than anyone did in his career, his first lifetime start.
At 96, and we know that Bishop's Bay is a damn good horse. So
yeah,
look, I understand the reasons to bet against this horse. I get it. And if this were a graded race, I would understand it more. But folks, this is an optional claim or non-winners of 2 other than, and this horse was scratched 36 hours before the Preakness in a race he was going to be bet pretty good. So, hey, look, we've seen plenty of these horses lose this year, but I can also tell you, the horse has probably been in Kentucky since. He's worked at Churchill, but every Godolphin horse that lays up goes to Keeneland. Howard, our friend Johnny Burke, as he told us that morning, April 15th, every Godolphin horse in America that lays up goes to Keeneland. So this horse has probably been at Keeneland till
and
they
we know
shipped
where
him
at
over
Keeneland specifically, right off the.
We know exactly where, right on Rice
We
Road.
know the barn. We were in it.
So look, again, I'm not knocking anyone who wants to try to beat this horse as a 3 to 5 shot and maybe lower. I'm not, but in a sequence where we're talking about wide open races, yeah, I'm going to make my stand here and live and die with it.
I am going to use some others. I mean, he doesn't have to win the race, but guys, if he wins and he wins impressively, I'm going to say he would go to the Clark on Thanksgiving weekend, the Grade 1 at Churchill. What do you think? Clark handicap.
Sounds right.
I would
and then
say
on to Pegasus.
Pegasus, you would think, right?
This could be a serious horse, guys. I hope he ends up.
And Maiden Focus, I
really
understand. Good. No, that's part of the reason to, if you're looking to fade him, the price is really the main reason. Yeah. You want to beat an odds-on favorite. When you see these will pays in this race, you're going to see this horse. Every other horse is going to be more than twice this horse in the multis, at least. Yes. So, yeah, you'll get paid if you can beat them, and I understand. But the argument I make to bet him against Olders is the time of year, and on paper he's faster than all of them except one, and he's got a right to move forward off that race.
Yeah, I hate to go with the motor horse as a lone A in the last race of a sequence because, Pete, what this pick 5 is going to pay, 3 to 4 times less with the one than anyone else. But I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It just feels like the other races are more spreadable and more interesting from price dynamic. But we'll see. Let's speaking of price dynamics and ticket construction, let's talk about the pick 5 tickets as we end the show. Pete, we'll rail this off pretty quickly. We'll go Pete first. 2, 3, 4, 7, 11, 12. With 1, 6, with 2, 3, 7, 9, 10, 11, with 2, 4, with singling first mission, $72, Pete.
Yeah, so the first and third legs are ones where I just think are super wide open. So I wanted to be as spready as possible. You can do that when you have a single. I honestly, I wouldn't even mind doing it here. I would add your guys 7 in the fourth leg. It would take it up to 108, which is the reason why I actually didn't do it. Because I was trying to follow. I know. I try and follow the rules every once in a while, but I would do that and add the 7. And then in the second leg, I like your 6, my 1. I think there's other horses in there that could win the race, but I figure if you're going to go as deep as I did in the first and third legs and are looking to try and catch a bomb in at least one or both of those, you gotta cut somewhere else. So yeah, I would just add the 7 to the fourth leg, and it would be 108 if you don't mind doing. Not you, I mean, in the viewers there.
Oh, I was about to do it actually.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I would say do that if you don't mind. Throw the 7, and then I think it takes it up to 108, but I'm pretty sure
in the fourth leg.
Oh, Pete, don't worry about the money. Don't worry.
No, I just want the amount to be right. I just wanted the amount to be right, Paul. I don't.
Should I press save? All right, I'll
do it. Do it.
Oh, that feels
108, baby. Oh. Hey, you owe me.
Hey, we didn't hit that Powerball, Pete. Did you hear about that?
We won $8.
There's the $8.
We did. There you go. All right.
There it is. $8.
All right. Let's take this off the screen. Paul's pick 5. There it is. 2, 3, 6, 12 with 1, 4, 6 with 2, 7, 9, 10 with 2, 4, 6, 7 with first mission. The one $96, Paul.
Yeah, 2 points. I said I was 9, 10, 11 in that third leg, and I was actually 2, 7, 9, 10, 11, but I cut it down to fall within the budget, which is very unlikely.
And we can't add a fifth of that. That's be way over. Sorry, Paul.
But I honestly think, Howard, that this is the type of sequence where you play ABC, because I do think you want to be able to hit it without first mission. But I don't think there's any way you can give other horses equal weight to first mission. So I will be
Yes.
playing him as a lone A, and probably a couple of C's, maybe. But if you get alive, Howard, you just said it. You get alive to someone else. Your second choice, the payoff could be 4 or 5 times what it is with first mission, and you want to do that. So I don't think you want to go 6 deep in the race and have like 2 B's and 4 C's, but I would want to have a few at least C's in there.
Okay, I agree with you. By the way, very important distinction: win betting versus tournament or horizontal betting. From Matt Miller, says to main focus, if playing in a tournament, I just got to find a winner in the last. Outside of the tournament, I would need even money or an attractively priced double. Likely would end up passing. Thank you for that comment. And from Simon O'Neill, go ahead, Paul. It's pronounced
Dubois.
I like how the thing that he put in the rhymes is even harder pronounced than the actual word we're trying to say.
I think
Simon.
It's petit pois, right? So it's Dubois.
Dubois.
Right?
Dubois.
Petit pois. Simon, how did I do? I did take Spanish, but I know a little French. I think it's petit pois, therefore it's Dubois, I believe. I don't know, Simon, who knows? People right now are laughing and listening later this week like, what the hell are they doing? Anyway, we're trying to pronounce the track, guys. Give us a break. We want to be, worldly men out there. I'm sorry, Paul. Are you done with your ticket conversation?
I am. Yep, those
All
are my 2 points, the middle leg and the last leg I wanted to talk about.
I'm going 212 with 1612, with 25910, with 247, with 110 for $72. Guys, here's my thinking. No, I would not use the 10 evenly with the 1 in the last, but I think Creative Minister is the most likely winner with a decent amount of speed in the race as a closer. So I've got the whole speed closer kind of thing, guys. And then if Creative Minister wins, like I said, I'm tripling or quadrupling my payout. So I think it's Creative Minister, right? That's the 10 horse.
Yes.
That's the one I'm interested in the last. I'm praying in the first race, just hoping to get through that with 2 horses. And so I'm deciding not to single first mission while acknowledging that first mission is by far the horse to beat. Coming back off the layoff. Guys, as I show the banner on the bottom of the screen, Mr. Pete Visco, got about 2 minutes left in the show. Final thoughts, sir.
I think it's a fun sequence. So as I was going through, I was like, man, these races are tough. They're wide open. At least 3 of the legs, I think you can make a logical case for over half the fields for sure. So those are fun ones to play. Obviously, we're ending it with a huge chalk, so that's not the most enticing thing, but I think it's a fun one to handicap, and it's going to be a fun one to play, hopefully. So let's go. Let's cash some tickets, crush your bets, whatever you want to say.
Paul, we got a lot of people here that were not here in the first 10 minutes. I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Paul. Maybe you should just final thoughts with what we started with the beginning of the show on the bottom of the screen.
Yes, join us on a week from Tuesday. October 24th will be 10 days out from the Breeders' Cup, and we will have it seems trivial to call him courageous, but that's at the least the courageous young man for whom this horse is named on the show with his parents, and maybe little sister Kylie, who turned 10 Tuesday. Happy birthday, Kylie.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
Kylie might be making a cameo appearance, and that's going to be great. And I wanted to mention one other thing, Howard, in my closing, if I could.
Of course.
Headline on TDN came out this afternoon. Judge throws out PETA-backed lawsuit that sought to block loan to Naira for Belmont renovations. And any day those fraudulent people from PETA lose anything is a great day for horse racing. So I would just like to say that those PETA idiots losing in court today really made my day.
I would agree. You know, also made my day. I was correct on the pronunciation, according to Simon O'Neill.
See, that's why you're the host. That's why you're the host.
Now they won't kick me out of France when I'm there, maybe visiting maybe I'll visit Simon too. Simon and Davey Lane maybe next summer. Hey, I'm thinking of a trip, guys. We'll see.
You need to visit that track. What are you talking? That should have been the first thing.
You got to go to Longchamp, If you're going to go to France, you go the second weekend in October. You go to the
Deauville, Longchamp. It's wow. I mean,
what about Les Petits, whatever the hell the name of that track was that we were just talking? I can't even remember it now. Whatever that track was, you got to go there.
There should be poo-poo coming down the screen right
now.
With that
should
mistake.
be. Let me hear.
See how that I went back to the little comedic spiraling there. My final thoughts again is thank you again, everyone from Keeneland last weekend. We got a lot coming up in the show, guys. I mean, a lot. We have, of course, Cody Dorman. We haven't mentioned this yet. We are going to have a separate Breeders' Cup tip sheet, a special Breeders' Cup Power Picks tip sheet that's in the works. We'll get information out to that. And also those of you that are on our email, I'm going to send out an email this weekend about everything that's happening in the next 2 weeks, because we got a lot going on, from contests to handicapping the Breeders' Cup, just everything Breeders' Cup you need. Last year was a huge success. And guys, we have a lot more people now that are watching the show than last year. So I cannot wait. I mean, it's the best 2 days in racing, Paul. I think we'd all agree with that, right?
It's awesome.
Oh, it is. In the Derby, we went this year, Howard, and it's great, and it's a spectacle. And it's it's 100,000 people for the Oaks and 150 for the Derby, and the walkover was great. Everything was great, but I really look at the Derby as really more of a day for just as much for people outside of horse racing, where the Breeders' Cup is for those of us who are just really, really unhealthily wrapped up in it. And I put myself at the top of that list. So,
and I also should mention Davey Lane, our special Euro show, is in the books. It's going to be, looking at my calendar, it is going. Oh boy, I'm going to screw this up. No, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Wednesday the 25th. Wow, what back-to-back days that's going to be? Cody Dorman and family, and then Davey Lane. Wow, if our subscriptions and likes do not go up, by the way, 34 likes. That's it. We got hundreds of people watching. Come on, people. Right before I end the show, smash that thumbs up button. Please smash that thumbs up button as we end the show. For my good friend, Pete Visco, Paul Halloran, this has been your host, Howard Kravitz. We are creeping up on 300 episodes. This has been episode 296. Thank you very much for watching. Crush those bets at Keeneland this Saturday. Take care, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.